everybody, and welcome back to another very special episode of the PokerNews Podcast. We are all back at our respective homes. If you are watching, you would know because you can see all of our very cool backgrounds, which really emphasize our personalities. Jeff, let's start with you. I was really hoping that the interview this week was going to be the interview from the winner of the MSPT in San Diego, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't, did make a final table there. Don't mean to brag. It just wasn't the final table for the event that I was going out there to play, but that was fine. I think the best part of this trip, Sarah, is a very nice woman with a WPA patch walked up to me while I was about to walk into the tournament. And she said something to the effect of, can we get you for this interview? And I'm like, oh, sure. I'm very famous, of course. Yes, I'll take some time, chat with the WPA. It'll be great. She's like, cool. So if you could just hold this phone here and record, I'm going to talk to Chad with Poker News. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm just Chad Holloway's camera guy. So it was actually, it was perfect. It was fitting. It was a fantastic interview. Chad was great. It was on some Facebook Live platform or something. Got to hang with Mr. Holloway a little bit in San Diego for a fun tournament stop on the tour.
It may be a big deal at Poker Go or with GGPoker, Jeff, but when it comes to the MSPT,
that's right.
Chad
You're the
Holloway,
guy.
Yeah, they want the interviews, and no, that was very kind of you to be. It reminded me of, you remember back in the day, there was a segment on ESPN with the WSOP where Daniel Negreanu was talking about his buddy from Canada, Pat Pezzin, used to be a PokerStars Team Pro back during the poker boom days, and how Negreanu would always get recognized, and Pat Pezzin was relegated to, can you take a picture with, for the fans of Negreanu and the fans. But it was fun. It was a good stop. We had a lot of fun. Yeah. I was there for, like 10 days. I got to work, got to play, got to experience San Diego a little bit, and it's a good poker scene, and I think it's only going to get better. They've got more MSPTs coming. They've got Run Good Poker Series is going there as well. It's a good market for sure.
I can't believe someone had the balls to ask you to hold the camera, Jeff. That's I don't know. I'm gonna duly note that for my own self and try to do that at least one time during the WSOP this summer.
My camera work is horrendous, as you are probably aware, when I used to send you these clips maybe for social media, and you're like, okay, that looks nice, thank you.
That's not true. I'm sure it was great, and we all know Chad has a face for video, so I'm glad to see you putting your cute little dimples out there into the world more. Well, you guys, we have an awesome show for you today. We are going to have two guests, which is always, we like to put in that work for you guys. We like to get out there. We're going to talk to Jesse Sylvia about the state of live poker coming back in the United States, also a little bit about online poker coming back in the United States. And we are also going to talk to one Mr. Yaple about, he's the general manager, I want to say, of the poker room in the Hustler Casino, which totally made me want to go to the Hustler Casino, but if nothing else, made me very excited about the Hustler Casino Live. I think this is going to be some really exciting content. And of course, we talked a little Larry Flynt, which you guys know that's where I was trying to take the interview as much as possible. Well, before we get too far, though, from talking about the MSPT, Chad, since you were there live reporting it, I'm going to let you roll with all of the vowels that are involved in talking about this MSPT. I'm calling it the MSPT San Diego, but that's not what we're talking about. So why don't you go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, so it was the MSPT Showdown Series at Sycuan Casino, which is just outside of San Diego. It ran for about 2 weeks. They had 11 trophy events. It started with a $360 regional event. 47 runners, so kicked off with a bang, ended up being won by Armando Messina for $33,000 after a big final table deal. I think there was 7 people who worked a deal, each of them getting at least 15,000 up to that 33,000 that I mentioned. And then there were some side events in between, like Jeff mentioned. He final tabled one of them, but some of the winners of those events were Bob Chow. He's a WSOP circuit winner. I think he won the Horseshoe Hammond a few years ago. He took down the Turbo Deep Stack. You had Ken Poe out of Ohio. He's a pretty regular circuit grinder. And then in the tag team event, which is a fun event, I actually got to play Lena Evans of Poker League of Nations and her partner Tavish Margers. They ended up winning that for almost $10,000. But of course, the biggest tournament was the main event, $1,100 buy-in. It blew away its 200K guarantee by drawing 676 runners, $654,000 prize pool. And there was no chop in this one. I was kind of surprised. A lot of money on the line, but that one was won by Alejandro Uruguay. He is a Bay 101 dealer. He took the weekend off work, flew down, fired one bullet into the tournament, and turned it into a $140,000 payday. So it was pretty exciting. He had a good rail. He had a lot of friends and people cheering for him. And it was one of those just kind of special moments that we haven't seen in a while because of the pandemic, right? We're seeing online winners winning life-changing amounts of money, but it's been a while since we've seen this big six-figure score and like a mid-major. And so it was just it was a cool little moment for me, kind of thinking like, all right, poker's back. And Jeff, I don't know if you got that impression, getting to play there, but it was a great turnout.
I agree. Great turnout. I thought it was really well run. I think, Chad, you've said this a couple of times on this podcast, but the MSPT, they got back in the mix pretty quickly, all things considered, from the pandemic, and they keep their protocols in place. They have the plexiglass up. Whenever somebody is eliminated, they have a red sign that says, please wait, and somebody comes and sanitizes the area, then flips that sign to green. That alerts the tournament director that they can put somebody in that seat. The passion for poker in this San Diego market is certainly there. There were a lot of locals who had Sycuan or Hamul as one of their home casinos, and it's like they were proud to have an event of this magnitude there. I thought the turnout was absolutely spectacular and more than the MSPT could have even dreamed of. Great sign for poker as we move forward.
There was I think it was the main event. You ended up playing with Chris Red, who she's Reed. She's the woman who was doing the video and asked you to do the video, right?
She also, side note, real quick, Chad, not to cut you off. She also slapped me on the head. I just let the record show that when she was all in with like 10s against 8s or something, the flop came 3-3 deuce with 2 hearts. This other guy had the 8 of hearts. I'm always looking, Sarah, you'd like this. I'm always looking for drama. She didn't have a heart. So I'm like, how about a heart on the turn? I just wanted to just try to amplify the drama a little bit. We don't want any runouts to be boring. She just slapped me on the head. Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
No, you actually, that's what I was going to tell. Was that story about that hand and how you, kind of passively aggressive rooted against her. She didn't like that too much, but she ended up winning the hand. And no, it was kind of fun. And then there was one, you were in a side event and I was on break from the main event, working the main event. And I'm like, let me go see how Jeff's doing. And it just so happened you got it all in that hand. I think you had pocket 10s and somebody else had, I don't know, ace jack or something. You ended up losing the race. And I'm like, well, I better walk away before Jeff,
so bad.
Before he thinks I'm jinxing him here.
I did win a race against a guy later who was escorted out by security, I do believe, at the casino. He had just gotten moved to our table. He had a blind versus blind battle. He ended up winning the pot, and he showed the small blind his hand before throwing it in the muck. And so I just very casually asked, what'd you show? Like just like that tone of voice, nothing bad by any means. And he just went off on me, like, you don't deserve to see what I had, and just went off and it was mind-boggling. It's like, why are you yelling at me? And that dude, I guess, had been an issue for the MSPT throughout the last couple of days. Had a couple of the glasses of good stuff, and he just went absolutely ballistic. And then after I doubled through him, he just shoved with the old 3 deuce off and ran right into queens, and good game.
A little follow-up to that gentleman. He did give the tournament director a hard time. He was giving security a hard time. And I left him when he was getting paid out from his min cash or whatever it was. And I went upstairs to get food for dinner break on the main event. And as I was walking back with my food, I seen a group of security guards, like 6 or 7 of them. And when you see a congregation of security guards in a casino, you're like, what's going on? I want to know. So I walked real close to him and kind of slowed down, and I heard them, and they said, all right, we're looking for, a skinny kid with his pants were hanging low, and like they were talking about the guy you're talking about, because I had just seen him. And then they're like, all right, let's go find him. And like, it was like a SWAT team. They just started from this congregation, and then they spread out in all different directions of the casino. And I was going to the elevator banks where there's another security guard posted, and one of them came up and, said, have you seen this guy? And I'm sure they found him. If he was on property, they had a mission.
So funny. I witnessed the security guard powwow going after the drunk teenager or whoever it is. Oh, it's weird. It's like I'm sure I've been that guy. I've probably been that guy like at least 20 times. So like God bless him, but like get your shit together. It's time to be a grown up here. Well, while we are still in Southern California, I think it only makes sense to go to our sponsored podcast this week from Elite Chip Care. Let's welcome to the show, Shaun Yaple. I am here with Shaun Yaple from the Hustler Casino, and this interview is sponsored by Elite Chip Care. Don't waste your money purchasing expensive, labor-intensive chip cleaning systems that ultimately can't keep up with your volume of chips. Elite Chip Care's cleaning system is easily set up in your card room or casino, and their experienced professional staff does all the work so you don't have to. Their portable system cleans and sanitizes up to 150,000 chips per day for just pennies each. Elite Chip Care uses a gentle but thorough process of ultrasonics that eliminates the need for harsh chemicals and detergents and leaves your chips clean, smooth, and odor-free. To find out more, check out elitechipcare.com. That is elitechipcare.com. And Shaun, you are the first person actually that I'm speaking to and know that is familiar with Elite Chip Care because y'all are using it over there.
I am very familiar with Elite Gaming, Elite Chip Care, and the pit manager, Clay Dubois, the owner and inventor. I have known Clay for over a decade. He is excellent. He's really just an amazing guy. The system he developed started from him using levers and doing it manually to now pretty much all automated. And that says a lot about Clay. Is one of the things that's best about him is that he's a constant tinkerer. And even though we have this product that can go to a casino and clean your entire chip set in a couple of days, he developed another system that let you do it in-house. And that's what's really great about the pit manager, is that it's done from our account team as chips come in. With the pandemic, we were given very strict regulations from the Bureau of Gambling Control in California and LA County that we had to clean the chips as they came into the cage before they went back out. So without the pit manager, we really couldn't stay compliant. So I couldn't recommend that product anymore. And really, Clay, as I said, he's a fantastic dude, known him for a decade. He is just somebody you want to work with. So 100% endorsement.
It's so interesting because this is actually something, when we got this sponsor, I was like, oh, this is the perfect time because literally everyone is panicked like all the time about being sanitary, about how we're going to make these transitions, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting is Clay's been doing this since about 2018.
Wow.
And so he was doing more of, it's better for your presentation, for your chip set to look clean at all times. And I 100% agree. That's one thing that I really feel strongly about is cleanliness of your facility, and your chips are the things that your guests are interacting the most with. So why would you not want that to be the best possible presentation?
That makes so much sense. And I think, so we've really been talking the last couple weeks on the podcast about this movement finally in at least and especially in the United States towards live poker again, and the people are clamoring for it. It's been absolutely inspiring, I think, at least for me, and motivating to see how ready the poker community, both players, staff, media, everyone is to just get back at it. So first off, talk to me a little bit about what has it been like to did you guys fully reopen? Is it like, what's this new Hustler looking like at the moment?
It's looking like a lot of plastic up everywhere.
Which some people really like.
No, if it makes people feel safe, I'm all for it. It definitely causes a lot of issues between dealers and players to hear interactions. One chip rule for all-ins definitely caused some issues. We can't tell what they were saying. We had to reopen outside in February, and we spent a lot of money to make the best outdoor experience we possibly could. We tried to make a really cool card room outdoors. We have a really nice fountain in our valley area. We put poker tables all around there. We had one huge continuous tent. It felt like a poker room, and it was pretty cool. We put TVs on the fountain to try to just make it as comfortable as possible. We ended up getting 22 tables outside. We'd fill them up daily. We'd have still decent wait list, and I was surprised how quickly people were coming back. But what I wasn't surprised about was before we opened, I was looking at tribal properties that are 50 miles, 60 miles away, and they were the busiest they've ever been. So that let us know, okay, it's time for us to expand this and see how far we can take it. And once we reopened, players came on back, and it was great to see. We went back inside on April 5th. We increased our table count to 26. It's currently at 26 because we are doing the construction for Hustler Casino Live in the Crystal Room. So we're kind of capped out right there. But, revenue wise, we're, 95, 98% back to where we were pre-shutdown. That is also because it's 8-handed. So, every 8 table is picking up an extra table. So that definitely helps out a little bit. It does play a little bit faster. So that's one of the main reasons. But the players were ready to come back. And I think one benefit that we had was when players were used to playing at our place, they're used to paying our rake, which at this point is lowest in all the LA card rooms. But when they're playing the home games, you're seeing $75, $150 for some of these games. Like, holy cow. They're getting fed, gourmet meals, and you got half naked women running around them. It's a pretty comfortable experience for them, but you're still paying for that. Like, you're still paying directly out of your pocket. Those games are incredibly tough to beat. Actually, they're unbeatable for the most part. So that's why I think we had a lot of players come back, and they're happy to be in a professional environment.
As just someone in the poker industry, I'm so happy to see the response to, you just can never tell. And people are, a lot of people, I think, rightly so, up to you, however you feel about things, but have been very worried, very cautious. And I just think that it could have gone either way, but the poker community was like, A, we're gamblers, and B, like, let's get it. We love poker. We miss poker. Like, let's do this.
Funny you say, they're gamblers. I mean, obviously, our customers who came back are the most risk-tolerant people in the community, right? When we shut down, the people we said bye to are the first people we said hello to when they came back. So that was definitely when we first opened. The last 2 weeks, though, since people are being fully vaccinated, we've seen a lot of our older guests return also. So our limit games have come back much stronger than what I expected, which is a very encouraging sign. So just walking through the floor now, you see a big mix of age that we weren't seeing for the first few months of opening.
Hey, my grandma just came and visited me. I hadn't seen her in 1.5 years or whatever, and she was just like, "Back's ready to party." I was like, "All right, cool, grandma." I definitely want to get into Hustler Casino Live, which our audience will be sort of familiar with from maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. It seems like a while ago now. We did a podcast talking about this. I think it's just another thing that's just really exciting for the poker community, something for us to look forward to. But before we get into that, Shaun, let's talk a little bit about you, about your role at the Hustler. And, I like to ease it in a little bit first with just like, who are you? How did you get to this position? Obviously, you must be a lover of the game as well.
So I'm the general manager. I've been here for about 2 years. I don't think anybody gets into California card rooms on purpose. I think you kind of fall into it. I think that's probably true for a lot of casino people. I was in college playing baseball. I had a bad injury. I no longer could compete at the level I wanted to, and poker kind of became a competitive outlet. And that led to me dealing and then working all different positions in the card room. Worked in security, worked in the cage, worked in F&B. And I had a lot of experience before that in banks and restaurants. And so I was pretty familiar with the other departments. And I liked playing poker. I like stats. So it was fun. Played a lot of poker through college, got offered a job at a card room out of college, worked for the same company for 15 years, worked my way up from Florida casino manager to general manager. I was there, I was very content, very happy, but got pretty bored actually. I mean, it was a smaller card room. It was kind of the same game plan every day. Didn't have a lot of autonomy to make changes to what I thought would be beneficial. So I ended up leaving a very secure job. Took a chance on a different location, executed the new place great, just picked the wrong horse for ownership, and funding was a little bad. So I had to look for a new job. Very fortunate that Hustler Casino was hiring, and interviewed with Mr. Flynt. That was a very fun experience, and came to Hustler in July 19. Was able to hire staff that I wanted, and when I got here, I was very I was interested to see what was going with the place. Was it ran well? Were the people good? what needed to be fixed. And the best part about Hustler is the people are fantastic. No issues with the people that work here. Everyone who's competent been here for a very long time, and they're very easy to work with. So really making positive changes for the casino is very simple. And, you know, a lot of the changes were made on table games because that's where the most low-hanging fruit was. So we made those changes. And then, you know, as we're making changes on the Cal side, we decided, okay, how can we attack poker to make Hustler more prominent in the LA market? In LA, it feels like your status is kind of tied to poker and not tied to table games. And we could have table games go up 25% and no one will even look twice at Hustler. Poker goes up, you know, one table, oh, Hustler's doing great. So, so just kind of, you know, with that being said, you know, I wasn't familiar with this market. I came from Northern California and came from Sacramento area, Bay Area. So I had to familiarize myself with all the main people in LA poker. And it was very quick. I mean, very quickly, I realized, you know, poker is a social, obviously social game, social network, and it's really marketing driven. So how can I make a mark for Hustler? And working with our team here at the marketing team, we decided that I think a live stream would be a fantastic way to get our name and brand out there. And also, you know, the problem with that was, though, I had no idea what to do, where to go, where to start. So it was kind of starting from scratch. I had one contact from Northern California, Roger Bailey, who helped start, he did a live stream with Two Pair Poker Tour back probably in 2010, 2011. He helped get Stones Live going when they first did it. So I know he had some, you know, some expertise or some technical knowledge of how to get it started. Met with him. He gave me some really good just backbone ideas and things that I knew I wanted to accomplish and what the vision would be for Hustler in a live stream. The problem was I didn't have to beat anybody to do it. So Roger lives in Northern California, so that's not really feasible for him to do this. So we had this idea, we kind of had the Stones Live thing kind of blow up, so we kind of put it on the back burner, obviously. And then, you know, then we get into 2020 and then COVID hits and we shut down. So we really have now, it's kind of an idea I want to do, don't know how I want to do it, just kind of sitting there. After we shut down in March, you know, we're waiting to reopen. I was kind of scrolling Twitter at work, and I see Ryan Feldman, who was one of the owners, Bruce's Live at the Bike, you know, posted a picture of a change in relationship form from Bicycle Casino and him. You know, they're laying them off. Happened to all the card rooms. It's not very personable, but understandable why they did that. You know, we would be sure to contact all of our key people, let them know what our plans were. I don't think anybody contacted Ryan. So I could see he was upset. I just reached out to him. I've never talked to him before ever, and just said, hey, you know, I might have something for you, Hustler. And from my view, I thought, hey, this guy is a really good network for, you know, mid to high limit poker players for no limit games, which Hustler has never had a market for. You know, besides Mr. Flynt's 4,000, 8,000 stud game, which was massive, and minimum buy-in was 200,000. It went on for years, which is great. You know, for us, it's like we run 1-3, 2-5, and a 5-5 game, 5-10 rarely. That's kind of our max. So that's kind of what we were known for. So that market segment in Los Angeles was, you know, our smallest market share. We had, you know, we were very competitive in every other aspect except for 5-5 and above. So I thought that's, you know, a way we could definitely move forward. So message Ryan or text Ryan, and he messaged me back, got on the phone. We connected pretty well, talked for about an hour, and he said he wanted to come in, just kind of pitch me an idea with his business partner. I said, okay. So he comes in about 2 days later with Nick Bertucci. Never met Nick. I've heard his voice on the radio a few times for his real estate endeavors. You know, he's got a good personality, and they had this 14-page deck they're pitching me on. After about 5 minutes, I realized, okay, we're definitely going to work together. I understand exactly what they're doing. Like, I understand why there's value for us. This is the best way we could ever advertise our facility. And it's also the only way where I can advertise and actually recoup a lot of the costs on the individual table when we're doing it, right? That's very beneficial. So talked for about an hour and a half. It was a great meeting. Basically worked out the framework of a deal just in that one meeting. Now all I had to do was convince Mr. Flynt this was a great idea. And that will take some time because, you know, he was very detailed. You better cross your T's, dot your I's 3 times before you talk to him. He's gonna ask you any and every question. If you don't have the answer for any of his questions, your idea is gonna get shot down. So with that said, we also had to, you know, give him a whole pitch, but also have a finished presentation of what it would look like. And I don't know if the audience is familiar with Hustler, but it is a gorgeous facility. It was built in 2000. The decor is over the top. It's opulent. It's gorgeous. It's like Monte Carlo style casino. There's gold, all over the place, and it's not gold paint. It's gold leaf. Like that's what that's what the place has. It's a premier. It is the premier California card room for aesthetics. It was the first one to really spend the money to make the facility just incredibly nice. And since then, the Gardens redid their facility. It's really nice. Also, Hollywood Park also redid their old facility. It's a beautiful spot. But Hustler definitely started the trend. So with that said, the stage has to look like it's part of this facility. So we have to build a beautiful design that looks like it's been here for 20 years. So it took us a few months to actually bring it to Mr. Flynt, have the renditions done. And in November of 2020, went to his home, had lunch, pitched him the idea, and he loved it. And he told me basically, this is pretty impressive. If you can pull this off, I'd be really impressed. I said, all right, well, we're going to do it, and gave him the breakdown. I figured there's really no way we can lose this project. And what I would stress is the project's a great idea, but it's really the people that will make sure that the idea takes off. And I think with Brian Feldman and Nick Bertucci, I have the right people to make this project a success. They have the social network, which I will never have. I mean, I don't have the time to do what they do. It's very, very difficult. But also Ryan has the soft people skills that is required in poker to deal with all different personalities. And that's just as important as anything else we're doing. So I believe in the people, I believe in the project, and I don't think we can screw it up.
So, I mean, when we talk to the guys, what it feels like ages ago now at this point, in terms of the realistic timeline, there really wasn't one. And I think really even for poker now, we're just now getting to the place of being able to say like, okay, maybe we can start thinking about what the next quarter looks like and the quarter after that. Do you guys have any ideas of when this thing might be able to launch?
Yeah, we're looking at the stage to be complete by May 31st. And then from there, it would probably take another couple of weeks of kind of training and testing the waters with all the cameras and sound and just production in the back end. So I think we're looking at, hopefully a late June launch, maybe early July at the latest. So it's definitely, coming up pretty quick.
That's amazing. And I think we've seen very clearly the poker audience is clamoring for more content, for more live streams. And I truly believe, actually, as someone in the media, that live streams are the future of poker entertainment as a whole. Anyways, I think people are intellectually competent enough at this point that they want to see a lot of, if not all of, the action. And that they appreciate and value the commentary in a way that I think people really underestimated the poker audience for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're getting top-notch announcing talent, which is extremely exciting.
Yeah, I actually just saw on Twitter before this interview, I was looking at the Hustler Casino Live Twitter, which for those, if you don't follow it yet, it's HCL Poker Show. And they said David Tuckman, Norman Chad, obviously, Ryan Feldman and Nick Bertucci, but Bart Hansen. I don't know who Nicole Jurgens is, but that means nothing. I am not the litmus for like how to judge these things, but DGAF poker player. It seems like basically everyone in LA who is active in the poker community and knows how to commentate is already on board and signed up. And it's interesting. I can see how with everything going on with Stones, it was kind of like maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit, but it also opened up a huge space for something to be done really well, first of all, and second of all, for just something to be done safely.
100%. So that's one thing that obviously we're concerned with, and Ryan and Nick know that the security and integrity of their product is most important. So they have a very good process and procedures for keeping the stream safe, keeping information very tight-lipped, no ins and outs in production. We have lockers that everyone's personal possessions must go into, phones, hats, glasses. So it's, that was definitely a learning experience that, will benefit us in the future and make sure that game security is 100% as good as it possibly can be.
It's also, to be honest, going to be more entertaining that way. It sounds, maybe a little bit draconian, but exactly. Like, take the phones away, encourage people to, give each other some hell, talk some trash, do whatever. I definitely think from a viewer's perspective, that's going to be a lot more interesting. Now, gosh, it was probably close to 7 or 8 years ago, I had looked into trying to set up some live stream stuff for PokerNews, and at the time it was just very expensive, because we were going to especially look at like moving the live stream to all the events we were at, and so just like the travel and then setting up all the internet, I mean, it's really a logistical nightmare. But for you guys, once you have all that stuff set up and in place, it's really just a matter then of figuring out how frequently you want to set these games up. Do you guys have an idea of what you think your schedule will look like?
Yes, I think our schedule's gonna be very aggressive. We're gonna be Monday through Friday. So probably 5 to 6 hours a day is our goal. And if people are watching the stream and they want overtime and they're chatting in the chat room for it, I'm pretty sure we're gonna give the viewers what they want.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's just, I mean, when you have that sort of regular content that people can count on and they can count on coming back to, it's obviously great for the viewer, but it's also just great for the people and we know now that's how you build a successful stream, is just being consistent, right?
And also it's a lot easier for us to get word out on specific promotions or events that are going on in Hustler Casino. That's one thing that we're definitely going to utilize is, we have this platform to get the word out to our people. Why not utilize as much as possible? And that's one reason why I think this partnership can be very successful.
I am super excited to see this whole thing go down. And I also think especially there's, we have a lot of the stuff that Say Poker Go is creating, which feels a lot of it is, I love the content that they're doing. I'm trying to figure out how to say it without sounding like I don't. Like, I love it's just very like top level, very marketed, very like building storylines and bringing in these like A-lister type people. But I feel like just something more regular, and which also includes some people that might also be more relatable to some of the like more traditional grinders. There just seems to be a big opening there where there's not any live streams like that.
So, one, poker, it's a TV show, right? And
exactly.
It's entertainment for the masses. Even though Ryan just played on it about 2 weeks ago with Phil Hellmuth and company, which is cool. But for us, I think that Ryan will have the ability to create his own kind of stars, right? Garrett Adelstein, guys like that. I think they started live with the bike. They became very well known. So you have the ability to take someone who's not well known and make them known. And I think that's really attractive. It's fun to build someone up like that. It's also fun to see how their personalities evolve when they're on camera and how they interact with people and how often they change up their game since not everybody's watching them play. So
that's exactly. And when I think of the vloggers who've been really successful, it does seem like that's the recipe, is people want somebody. It doesn't have to be like the biggest, flashiest, most interesting, although we love that too, but just that people want to get to know somebody and feel like they know somebody.
Yeah, we actually really are getting more into using poker influencers to promote Hustler as well. We have Keaton Wynn, Suited Superman, who's excellent for us at Baseball Los Angeles. We're trying to work with other personalities coming to do meetup games, which I think will also give us good content. So that's kind of where I think the future of marketing for poker is kind of going.
Well, I don't want to end on a sad note, but we do have to say RIP Mr. Flynt. I don't know if you guys have, my listeners or audience, like the peeps out there, if you have watched or know his sort of like story, his biography, just a very, I think, iconic, fabulous, like brilliant man, and really even just clearly a brilliant businessman. I think getting into this industry and space and being as successful as he was is just a huge credit to his acumen as a businessman. And now Hustlers being run by the missus. Please tell me, what is this? Like, tell me everything. We want to know all the juicy gossip.
So, I mean, Mr. Flynt, he's irreplaceable, right? He was good. He's an incredible leader. He loved poker. He loved the casinos. It was definitely his passion, and that was appreciated. I really enjoyed working with him. He was actually much funnier than I ever expected. He gave me the most autonomy that I've ever had at a card room, and it's also the biggest place I've worked at. And part of that is because if I failed, he would fire me. He knew that. Which, but it's also, you got to be confident in yourself, right? So I think after a while, we had a good relationship where he trusted what I was doing, and I explained to him, here's our process, here's where we're trying to get to. And, you know, he was a great owner because all he cared about was making the casino money, which, if you think about it, is no BS, straight to the point, very easy person to work for. You know what makes him happy and what drives them. So, you know, with that said, he was very involved every step of the way. And since I've been here, Mrs. Flynt has also been involved every step of the way. She's there for every meeting. She goes over the same stuff we tell Mr. Flynt. So really going forward, I mean, you're never going to replace him, and you're going to miss his presence. But you look at the facility, and he's there at every step. You can't take one step in the building and not think of him. So yes, it's sad, and it's end of an American icon, end of a legacy for him here. But, you know, we'll do our best to make sure we honor that legacy. And the way we do that is keep running the place the way he liked it ran. Mrs. Flynt is a commanding presence. She commands respect, but she's also incredibly sweet and very, very easy to deal with. And, you know, I think she's going to be a fantastic owner. And what's exciting for me is that she wants to build on his legacy. And, you know, so what we can do, we can build here. I mean, she has other projects she wants to get into. So now it's a new growth mentality, which that's very exciting for us. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can do in the next few years, and, you know, just keeping Hustler the place that everyone wants to go to, and honor Mr. Flynt.
I am a firm believer in, you know, swinging for the fences, and like, you might strike out sometimes, but you're also going to hit some home runs, and that's like what it's all about, right? That's like the most fun stuff.
Isn't that what's wrong with baseball right now? It's either a walk or home run. I'm a huge baseball fan. Drives me a little crazy.
Me too. I'm trying to get my husband into it, but he just like won't. He just can't get into it. Well, I'm super excited to see this show. I'm so glad that it's so soon, and I will be starting my maternity leave the like end of June, beginning of July. So, you know, I'm gonna be just like hanging around with my baby, watching the live stream, trying to get in that chat. I'm really excited to have something fresh and new, and with a lot of the characters involved. I'm just really looking forward to seeing this whole thing happen. And I do think, you know, sometimes it's hard to sell the ROI of certain, I mean, videos, streaming. There's a lot of things, like from a marketing perspective, it doesn't always have this really clear ROI. And so I just love to see, I love to see people taking chances that I definitely agree with. This is the future of marketing for sure. And the future of, I think, poker entertainment.
One, happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Two, it's actually very easy to get the ROI on for this project, at least for us.
It was.
We have, you have revenue derived from the actual stream itself, and also as part of this, what goes hand in hand, you know, we have hired Ryan and Nick to be poker promoters for our 5-5 and above no limit games. So we have, 20 years of revenue history on these games. We have baselines, and we can definitely we'll be able to see when we grow from what we're currently doing. So I'm very confident that the ROI will be very positive EV.
Oh, it's gonna be really clear for sure. I'm just like, sometimes like when you show people the numbers for what like the build outs are gonna look like and what it costs to just like hire directors and, you know, the back end people, the monitors, switchboard operators, the audio people, like, you know, people freak out a little bit, but yeah, I think this is a brilliant move, and I think it's gonna put Hustler on the map even more so than it already is. And yeah, and a great honor to Mr. Flynt, and shout out to Mrs. Flynt. I love how you talk about her. I would love to have someone talk about me like that someday. She's very nice and lovely, but she commands respect. Amen. All right, Shaun, well, it was so good catching up with you. will you tell the people again, will you remind them where to follow, where they should find things, about not only the Hustler Casino Live, but also just what's going on at Hustler in the poker space?
Yeah, hustlercasino.com. You can get all of our information. We have our live wait lists on there. If you're in the LA area and you're within 30 miles, you can sign up on Poker Atlas. You can find us at Hustler Casino on Twitter. Just search for it. You'll find it pretty easy to find us anywhere.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hustlers out there.
No.
Just mostly
Actually, there are a lot of hustlers out there, just not a lot of hustler brands.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Thank you so much, Shaun.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Dirty and unsanitary? Elite ChipCare's ultrasonic cleaners kill bacteria and pathogens without using chemicals. Protect your team from potentially hazardous chemicals, UV, and gases. For daily sanitizing of your chips, our laboratory oven will eradicate most viruses using only heat. Up to 2,500 chips sanitized in just 3 minutes. Avoid the reoccurring expense of costly chemicals, UV bulbs, and gases. Safe, inexpensive, and sustainable. Visit EliteChipCare.com.
Well, it doesn't seem like a week goes by where we don't have some sort of news from the man that is Daniel Dvoress. There was a long period in his career where it seemed like he just couldn't capture anything live. He made that transition several years ago, capturing a couple of major titles. And since then, and especially in the pandemic, has crushed most everything online and finally managed to capture, I say finally, that's hysterical, his first GGPoker Super Millions title. Jeff, we'll go ahead and let you take this one, as I'm sure it will be full of all of the biggest names in poker, gigantic monies changing hands, all of your standard GG Daniel Dvoress stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Daniel Dvoress makes the final table of this event once every couple weeks or so. So like you said, Sarah, just another stacked final table. Mike Watson was there, Guillaume Nollet was there, Amy Bearer. But Sarah, you will like this. McDavid 97 finished in third. He had won a satellite for just $525. So he turned that $525 into almost $250,000. A nice little accompanying storyline to Dvoress's first Super Millions win. Dvoress takes home almost $400,000. I mean, the guy just continues to be one of the best out there, and he proves it time and time again. I'm not sure if he'll ever go on a downswing. I just think he'll always be at the top.
Yeah, I think you're certainly right on that front. And he's such a gentleman. I'd love to see him being successful and doing well as well. And he is one of the players who isn't shy about sharing his thought processes, about sharing, why he's making certain decisions and how he best tries to optimize his performance. He also really thinks a lot about his physical, well-being, as well as his, sort of spiritual, mental well-being, in addition to just being a brilliant poker mind. The WPT Online Series back at Party Poker.
Yeah, I think the big story from this one is certainly the WPT Online Series main event. It kicks off Sunday, May 23rd with Day 1A. Sunday, May 30th is Day 1B, a $3,200 buy-in, a $3 million guarantee, which is pretty big for Party, which is pretty big for an online WPT event, and your name, if you win, engraved on the Mike Sexton World Poker Tour Champions Cup. If you can't afford the $3,200 main event buy-in level, they got the mini main, a $530 buy-in. They've got the micro main, a $55 buy-in with a $150K guarantee. So the WPT Online Series main event coming up on Party Poker.
So one of the things we've talked about a little bit in talking about the United States, which is sort of the focus, I think, of this week's podcast. And actually, we didn't even really have to work to make it the focus of this week's podcast, because it does seem like what's happening in poker right now, for the most part, is what's happening, some of the shifts in the United States. And one of the things we've talked about, Jeff, I know you seem to know some things about this, but basically that 888 has redone their software, and that the idea or the hope is that when the 888 software eventually comes to WSOP.com, that it offers a lot more options, that it's just a better player experience. Now, Michigan and Pennsylvania, 888 is set to launch WSOP.com soon. Chad, you are like our resident, American online poker guy. He is, you guys, just so you know, Chad's official title is the US based live reporting manager, I think, right? You're the boss of our live reporting in the US. So talk to me a little bit about what this means and what you see as the future of, you know, these states is kind of ironed out.
I mean, it's certainly exciting news. We've had PokerStars and BetMGM or Party Poker US, the same, launching in Michigan already, launching in Pennsylvania. They are both segregated markets, right? They haven't combined player pools with each other, nor with New Jersey or Nevada. That said, the thought of WSOP.com coming to these states, by all intents and purposes, is going to happen in Q1, or maybe Q2, I guess, like the first half of this year, which is, I mean, it's almost over, which is the interesting part about this. So they announced in their call with shareholders that they are going to be launching WSOP.com, which we said is powered by 888. They said Q1 of 2021 on the investors call, but like I said, it's already past Q1, so let's just say Q2 or the first half of the year. Now everybody's wondering, will this mean WSOP.com bracelet events in these markets? Possibly, I guess. I think the odds of it are pretty slim. I just don't see them being able to combine player pools with New Jersey in Nevada in such a short time frame, especially when you don't have Party Poker US or PokerStars already doing that, right? They've been kind of the leaders. So for the WSOP.com to come from behind and beat them to the punch, I don't really see it. I could see them launching in time for the summer, maybe doing their own bracelet events in each market, which I don't think is a great idea. Maybe a better idea, do some circuit events in those markets. But yeah, it's hard to know right now. They're planning to launch. They are working hard at it, but that's kind of where things stand.
Yeah, you need these states to sign on to this multi-state internet gaming agreement, which Delaware, Nevada, and New Jersey are a part of. So on WSOP.com right now, for me in Vegas, for anybody in New Jersey, for anybody in Delaware, we have a shared player pool. Delaware's out of the mix for actual World Series of Poker bracelet events. But once we get Michigan into that agreement, once we get Pennsylvania into that agreement, then we move forward with the massive WSOP.com player pool. Then I'm sure, you know, Party Poker, PokerStars, to Chad's point, everybody gets involved with these bigger player pools. But also to Chad's point, it is very slow. So it is very hard to foresee a world in which Pennsylvania and Michigan are going to be eligible, are going to be allowed to play in these WSOP.com bracelet events, which is really unfortunate. I mentioned it on the podcast multiple times. I think if you were to ask the WSOP last summer what their goal was for this summer, they would say A, new software, B, a player pool that includes Michigan and Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, to probably no fault of their own, they've failed on both of those goals. So we don't have the new software in Nevada or New Jersey, and we don't have Pennsylvania and or Michigan joining us for the World Series of Poker online bracelet events. There's still a little bit of time for them to change it. I'm sure the World Series of Poker is working very hard at changing it, because this is what they want. This is the best for everybody, but unfortunately it just hasn't happened yet.
Well, as we stay along the lines of what's happening in the US, Chad, you just posted an article yesterday about what's happening in New Jersey, Michigan, and the Scoop. Kind of an interesting story to pop out, at least I would say probably an unlikely probability for someone to win the same event in both series, is it?
Yeah, I mean, this is right along the lines of what we were just talking about, right? So PokerStars has these two segregated markets. They have yet to get them in the same player pool. So as such, they're holding two Scoop events, one in New Jersey, one in Michigan. They're running alongside each other. They each have their own, guarantees, their own events. And like the other Scoop events we've seen in Pennsylvania, and we also seen in the regular PokerStars Scoop, is they have different tiered buy-ins, right? So they have a low, they have a medium, and they have a high. And on Monday, event number 11 was, they had the high medium. It was a 6-max PKO battle royale. The high buy-in was $200. The medium buy-in was $100. And a gentleman won them both. He's a New Jersey regular. We've reported on him a lot on PokerNews.com. One, Dan Sunig. He plays a lot on the East Coast, Borgata. Like I said, a New Jersey grinder, goes by Monkey Man 067 online. Took them both down. So yeah, the headlines like he won the same tournament twice. I mean, they're two separate tournaments technically, but both, like I said, two different buy-ins, and you just don't see that very often in these sort of PokerStars Scoop or Coop events. So that was pretty interesting. And then over on the Michigan Coop, you actually had a guy win not the same tournament, but won 2 titles, one back-to-back days. So that was interesting. And if the PA Coop was any indication earlier this month, we're going to have repeat winners, right? There's so many events with 3 different tiered buy-ins. I think in the PA Coop, we had 2 different players win 3 different titles. So these guys are out to an early start because there's lots of MI Coop and Scoop, NJ Scoop and MI Scoop events happening. And we're doing updates on PokerNews.com throughout pretty much the entire month of May.
Well, as we round out our sort of look at the current state of poker in the United States, which is popping off, we've talked about several times. And I want to talk to Jesse Sylvia, who is a well-recognized face, both as a poker player and also as a commentator in the United States, about, his thoughts on live poker returning. He's also a Las Vegan at this point. He left the old Massachusetts. So he can talk a little bit about what's happening in Vegas. But before we get to that, I just want to give a quick shout to our sponsors, talk a little bit about one of their coolest programs, GG Cares.
Kevin Martin from GG Poker here, and I just got to ask, have you heard about GG Care? Oh, you haven't? Well, guess what? It's the new daily promotion that rewards you for experiencing all the bad luck poker has to offer. The bad beats, the coolers, the suckouts, they're so frustrating. We hate them so much, but they cannot be avoided. But now, if you experience a bad beat on GG Poker, GG Care has your back. You'll automatically be registered to play in the next daily $30,000 GG Care flip out tournament. Here's the best part. You don't even have to be online for these flip out tournaments. Yes, you still have a chance for cash to go right into your balance. So remember, next time you're on GG Poker and you take a bad beat, GG Care has your back. So if you have not joined the fastest online growing website, then make sure you join the GG Poker community and join me at the tables very soon.
Well, we are back with one of my favorite people in poker, one of the most genuine, accomplished, amazing, very diversely talented, Jesse Sylvia. Welcome back to the Poker News Podcast. It has been ages.
I know it's been too long. That was maybe the best intro I've heard for anyone, but definitely the best for me.
Yeah, and I just wing it like that. You see, that's how you've found your interviewing partner. Okay, so Jesse, we're the focus of this week's podcast, and really the focus of, I think, a lot of the news in poker as of recent has been poker in the United States. We are seeing some pretty incredible shifts, both, I think, some things that we never anticipated happening in the online world, like more states getting on board with actually allowing players to play online. And also in the live realm, of course, we have been patiently waiting for the poker world to open back up. And as it has, the poker community has responded in an epic way. You are in the city of Sin, which is obviously the apex, I think, of live poker in the US, although South Florida is making a pretty good come at it, I would say. So first of all, tell me what's going on. What has Vegas been like? Before we get into what it's like now, I want to talk a little bit about, what the last couple of years have been like for you.
Yeah, it's been quite a couple of years. So for Vegas, it's been interesting because as soon as poker tournaments came back, it was still pretty full-fledged Corona lockdown time. And we were breaking guarantees all over the place. I shouldn't say we, because I wasn't really playing. I was just playing online a bit. But it seemed like every tournament that happened at the Venetian or whatever, they would have a guarantee and they'd have like 4-day 1 flights and they would break the guarantee in the first flight. It was nuts. So that's been pretty wild. And now that, we're coming out of all of that and the numbers in the city are way down and stuff like that, I feel like it's just going to get better. We'll see.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's popping off. I feel like pumping the brakes a little bit has just allowed everyone the opportunity to rev their engines, and we are ready to go. But for you, I feel like there was sort of a period there, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, where you were traveling a lot, doing, commentating a lot, I think you were very busy and very, you're just like in high demand, maybe to say. You did get engaged, and, the world, I think, of poker did sort of dramatically shift in a lot of ways there for a few years, where I think there was slightly less going on from like a poker media and entertainment standpoint, slightly less going on in the poker world. Now we're back full force, but talk to me a little bit about, what your life has been like in the last couple of years before the Rona, and then also like in the Rona. What did you do to keep yourself entertained and also to keep yourself, afloat in this world?
Yeah, it's definitely, it was weird emotionally because I was traveling a good bit. I guess a lot. I was traveling a lot before Corona, and I was doing a lot of things that involved not being at home. And obviously those things changed. It was weird for me. I was in Australia when the numbers started blowing up in China, and we were just close to there. I always kind of pay attention to Mike McDonald's Twitter timeline. He's a very smart guy. And so I was, pretty early on kind of sweating these numbers. And I was out there for Aussie Millions. And when I came back, I think I went to play LAPC, and that was like the last tournament I played. And I was, pretty convinced at that point. We had a few cases in the US, and I was pretty convinced that we were going to be, locking down pretty soon. So after LAPC, I don't think I was emotionally ready to deal with just being in a house all the time and not traveling and not doing things, not seeing a lot of friends. So I just kind of threw myself into my work, or, the projects that I wanted to work on full force, and took that as like an opportunity to just, really focus on that kind of stuff, which was great. I think that helped me along with that stuff a lot, but, eventually it all sort of comes to a head, and you're kind of like, it all, hits the forefront of your brain at once, and you miss everyone that you've been hanging out with, and you miss going out and stuff like that. But definitely for me, it was a huge positive that I just focused on, like really buckled down and focused on working on projects, and, just getting better at a lot of the things that I really like doing.
So talk to me a little bit about what some of the projects are that you've been doing and that you've been interested in, and that have kept your attention in this time of having more time.
Yeah. So I guess on a smaller scale, I just really like markets and trading and find that stuff really interesting. And I spend a lot of time like reading about markets and learning more about trading. That was kind of from an amateur perspective. I'm not like a world-class winning trader or anything like that, or even close, but I just
Are you
really
a chart guy? Are you into the charts? You a candlestick guy?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think like there's some credence to that stuff, but I don't really know what I'm doing enough to tell you whether or not I think it's completely, there's definitely people who just study the charts and, follow that kind of stuff and do really well with trading. I don't know if I'm on that level. I just kind of look at things from a very macro perspective and zoom out and think about like what, what's undervalued and what's overvalued, and buy and hold for a long time generally. And I think that is better for me anyways, because I still have these other things I love doing with most of my time, like poker. And I don't want to spend all of my time glued to charts. I have friends who do that, and it's really impressive. They're just constantly checking charts and watching things and setting alarms. And I don't know if that's for me.
That's it. It's full. Well, I guess it's not full time if you're not doing, some of there's different markets, right? But like for some people, it's like nonstop. You set your sell limits, your orders, or whatever, set your alarms. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm the same as you, where I definitely have a point where I'm just thinking, okay, I think I might have to look at a more long-term approach, because ain't nobody got time to be like constantly aware of every like micro change and everything you're involved in.
Yeah. And also, as a side benefit, if you don't know what you're doing, you save a lot of money not trying to trade every 10 seconds, because it's a really quick way to go broke if you're not good at it.
For sure. I dipped my toes in the commodities like a couple of years ago, and then I was like, whoa, I think I need to like pump the brakes here, and let's just
Sick.
take things a little more slowly.
Yeah.
It is, because sometimes like as soon as you get involved, it just feels so, there's like, I think it's a similar feeling to poker in a lot of ways, where, you have like a certain amount of information, and then when you see things, like when you're sweating something and it ends up going the right way, you feel like you're the king of the world. And then when you're sweating something and it's going the wrong way, you think you're like the dumbest idiot ever. And
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of parallels. I think for people who love poker, trading is such an easy crossover. And actually for people who don't love poker because they think it's bad, like a lot of people at my last church, I had to explain to them, if you have money in the stock market, you're basically playing poker. Okay. So like, quit judging everyone about it. You don't even realize you're gambling just like everybody else is.
It's wild. People always, people who don't play poker ask me if it's scary to gamble for a living. And it's like, that's always my response. Like, you invest, right? Or like, some of these people have their own company. It's like you've gone out on a limb and done similar
literally
things
everything is a gamble. Having a child is a gamble. Getting married is a gamble. Like you're making calculated decisions with essentially every single thing you're doing in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm letting it go too far because I also I just love the trading, but talk about what are some of the other things you've been doing and interested in, and especially if it's not something you want to spend all your time doing, what do you want to spend all your time doing?
Yeah, I still love poker first and foremost in terms of things to do, and so I spent a lot of my time on two projects. I started a staking coaching group that I ran for about a little over a year. And I started a, poker software company, learning tool company with a couple friends. And that's been a project that we've been working on for the last year as well, which has been a lot of fun. And we're actually launching it pretty soon. So we're really excited to see what people think about it.
Okay, so we're definitely going to get deeper into that, because that's actually something I think a lot of the listeners and audience of the PokerNews podcast are into in general, and questions we get quite frequently is what are things you recommend to just get better? How do you improve your game? Especially if you can't afford, or you're not going to be getting premier level coaching from these, ridiculous people. But before we get into this software, which I'm very excited to hear about, I'm curious to hear about you sort of running your own stable, because I have had some very close friends who've done this, some of whom very much enjoyed it, some of whom did not, and almost all of whom were very surprised by sort of the emotional and time suck that it ended up being. I think that you have these that they turn into very deep relationships, and you feel very invested in these people's lives, which can be extremely draining. So I'm curious what your experience was.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. I feel like I did get really close to a lot of people. So for the record, we kind of ended the group a couple weeks ago. It was successful financially. We made some money, but it is an incredible amount of your time when you're running something like that, especially if you're coaching, and it's quite stressful. It was really something that I felt really great about the whole time I did it. I found out that I really like teaching, so that was a big thing for me. I actually took a test, one of those stupid online tests a couple of years ago that they're supposed to tell you more about your personality, and they said that I would like to be a teacher and I think something like a scientist, where you're sort of playing with data and puzzles, essentially. So that seemed right up my alley. I didn't start the staking group because of the test, but it made a lot of sense to me once I started the staking group. I love the teaching aspect of it. I loved a lot of things. I kind of hate the staking model and the way it works. And I think you kind of nailed why. You just feel really deeply invested in certain people. And like, you know, the way that the makeup model works is such that the deeper somebody goes into makeup, the more incentive you have to, you know, keep staking them. But the deeper somebody goes into makeup, the more likely they are that they're not winning at the stakes that they're playing. So it's a very, you know, tough line to balance on, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the phrase, but.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think that also you can see that play out in your own lives when we talk about people in bankroll management and how to pull your own selves out of holes. Then, you know, sometimes those are the times where we choose to make risks that we wouldn't normally maybe make because we just want to get back to zero. And there's all these like psychological phenomenon, right, associated with losing, and this idea of trying to get back to not losing is some sort of psychological like threshold with which people will like eventually at some point just like throw in all the money, do all the craziest things, make all the worst decisions. And that's basically what casinos are just like based on. But when you win the money, you don't feel it the same way. It has a different feeling than the like dropping down below some sort of arbitrary line. Okay, so you sort of tried this project for a year, pump the brakes on this project, and now you're about to launch a new baby.
Yeah, I think software was probably the wrong way to put it, but we basically so basically like a year and a half ago, Russell Thomas and I, my friend Russell, you know, we had access to some.
As Kitty Kuo's husband only, obviously.
Who I think pretty much everyone knows as Kitty Kuo's husband at this point.
You guys might know him as like 4th place finisher or something in like a WSOP main event. You might remember him for many accolades of his own, but I'll just call him Mr.
Whatever.
Kitty.
None of that matters. You know what's funny? Russell is so funny, but it's just hard to, it's just hard to have that shine through when you have Kitty also being funny. It's hard to, you know, but he's really, really funny. Every now and then he drops some gems, and if you wait around for them, they're great. So we had access to a lot of tools that were quite expensive, like pre-flop simulations. We had access to like the entire pre-flop game tree, and we were running a lot of simulations for post-flop stuff when we were studying. And we really just didn't like, I guess, like the user experience of a lot of the software that's out there. I don't know, people who have used solvers will tell you it's just, the software itself is a little bit difficult to use. It takes it has quite a learning curve. And for people
Daniel Negreanu literally on our show like 2 months ago or something basically just said, you can be the most brilliant minds in poker and you need somebody to break down what this software is and what it looks like and what it does for a long time before you can see and understand. And that this actually leads probably to more people misusing the information that they're getting, not people actually getting the right information and making the changes that they need to. That they just don't even understand the information they're getting from solvers because they don't understand how to use them effectively.
Yeah,
it's interesting
absolutely.
when you say that.
I think a large percentage, maybe not the majority of people have used solvers, but a large percentage of people have at some point, you know, hurt their own game by using solvers because they took certain information out of it that might not even be right. And then if it is right, you know, it doesn't really matter when you're actually playing against a human being. So it's really important to learn how to address that kind of information and how to adjust and stuff like that. And also, if you don't want to, you know, buy a really powerful computer or rent out a server and run all of this stuff yourself, it's quite expensive. Or when we started out, it was quite expensive to get this information. And the way that it was displayed, it was kind of, you know, loading it was slow, and the way it's displayed is kind of sloppy. And so, you know, we had a lot of little problems with that, but we just kind of pushed forward because we wanted to get better at poker. And then we met our friend Shireen. You would actually love Shireen, by the way. She's really cool. Shireen was on Survivor twice, and she's worked in tech forever. She worked for Google for a long time. She was one of the, not like super early employees at Google, but a fairly early employee. And then she went over to Yahoo. And Shireen's super into poker now. And we were just kind of, working with her and teaching her more about poker because she was just so interested in the game. And at some point she started talking about her gripes with all the poker software that she had used. And we were like, we should do something. And so we just started working on basically a project of what we wanted, like the tool that we always wanted to have. And, we've been working on that for a year, and we're getting close to launching. We're doing beta testing right now and launching in a few weeks. And we're really excited about it. It's really cool.
So who would you say then, and this is something that I just am pretty consistently thinking about in terms of creating content, like if you're looking at your target demographic that's going to love this learning platform, like where do you put them on the scale of sort of how much they should or shouldn't know already? Is this like going to help really beginner people? Is this really for people who have a pretty rudimentary understanding of poker? For people who like could be at the level of wanting to look at solvers and really just which I think is a pretty high level of poker thinking, but I think there's a lot more people at that level now than there ever have been, and that we would expect there to be.
Sure.
Yeah, just who's your target audience, I guess.
So what we essentially did was we took the whole pre-flop game tree and we just organized it in a really nice way. And we created these analytic tools so you can look at the data in different ways. So I think what we came up with is something that, everyone gets some value out of it, whether you're a beginner all the way up to like a really advanced player. If you already have your own solutions and you've been studying for them for years, you might get, a little less out of it than a beginner. But if you're a beginner, you can easily just navigate through anything. You'd be like, okay, hijack raises, button 3 bets. What do we do in the big blind on 40 big blinds? What do we do on 70 big blinds? And you could just move through it very quickly and compare things. If you're an advanced player, I think, this is a much easier thing to use than some of the stuff I've seen in the past. It's faster, it's cleaner, and the analytics tools that we created for the advanced players, I think, is really valuable. You can compare different ranges and different scenarios very quickly, and that's really huge. So that was kind of like the big problem, really. What you're asking is like, how do we tackle this in a way that, a basic player who's just getting into poker can use this really easily, but also it provides a lot of value for somebody like us, because part of why we made this was selfish, right? Like we made this because we wanted something that we can work with and get better at poker. And I think we did a pretty good job tackling that, but we'll see when people start using it.
Well, and that's
the feedback
interesting
is
because
always the public, right?
Of course, but it is interesting because I do think there is such a vast array of people who are ready for a lot more knowledge and information, but also because I think things have been so segregated in terms of how training and strategy sites have been developed and in terms of how information has been available, that there seem to always be pretty big gaps in between these sort of different, like, quote unquote levels of poker player, where I think there's actually quite a lot more overlap than people would realize. And to have a tool that you could really use to pull yourself along for a long time, right, without having to like restructure and refine a new platform or a new way to teach yourself or a new teacher or whatever, I do think there's definitely an opening in the market for something like that, where someone could really take themselves as far as they wanted to go in one platform. Is that the right word? Software?
Yeah. I mean, one platform sounds right. I mean, I think like 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, maybe even like 5, there was a lot of asymmetric information in poker, right? Certain information was either really expensive, or only certain people had found it, or only certain people have figured out certain things. And now it's kind of all out there. And it's just the best way to get it from wherever it is into your brain. And so I think what really matters is, the way that you approach learning and how organized you are about it and how diligent you are about it. And a big part of it is how the information is displayed. And so that was kind of like our thought when we were looking at it, how well can we organize the information and how efficient can we make it for somebody to study? But it's kind of like chess, right? Like, like 30 years ago, chess players would, go on break from a tournament, and they would go they'd go meet up with their really smart chess friends, and they would talk about like, what's the next move I can make, like when they're on break from a game. And now it's like, they don't even need to talk to their friends. They just get on their computer and they can look through different things and check out different scenarios. And it's a different way to study, and it's certainly like more cutting edge and more efficient. But it's just it's fun because it's almost, we're getting closer to everyone having the same information, and then it's a little bit more about how do you perform. And I always kind of like that. I think it's a more fair playing field or something like that, and I always appreciate that.
For sure. Because then it's about, what do you do with the information, not about like, how can I acquire the information and then I have something that no one else has.
Yeah.
So you said you guys will be launching soon-ish. Do you have a date? And is there a name for it? Is there a place where our audience can go start like checking things out, or is it kind of like covert for a while still?
Yeah, so the name of the product's Floptimal. We're at floptimal.com. Right now we're doing beta testing. So I guess the best way to do beta testing would just be to like DM me, and I can set people up with a beta account. Our Twitter handle is Floptimal, FLOPTIMAL. So you can go there and just message us or DM us, or you can DM me personally, and I'll set people up with it. I'm just like too excited about it. So I'm happy to put a bunch of time into just making people accounts or whatever. I've been running some friends through it. A lot of them are, quite advanced poker players who have already like kind of messed with solvers too. So it's been fun seeing different opinions and what people do like, and what people, want to see more of or whatever. But yeah, I've been putting way too much time into like tinkering with stuff and just hearing what people have to say, because it's just like kind of fun. It's new for me too, right? Like when you normally play a game, you don't get a lot of feedback on what you do. I guess in poker you get more feedback when it's bad, right? When what you do is bad, because when you make a good play, people aren't going to say a lot about it, but when you make a bad play, they let you know. And so it's kind of fun to get positive feedback on something.
It's interesting though. It's one of the things I really value about a lot of the poker players that I know that have transitioned, or like who are still poker players, but who have gone into the business space. I think Phil Galfond is a great example of someone who also, like, as he was building his company, he was very involved in lots of things that probably like he didn't need to be involved in, but like was just excited about, what he was doing. And I think, poker players, part of what gets you guys to where you are is that when you get into something, you just fully put yourselves into it. And I think that you can then see that in those people's businesses, and you can feel their kind of like touch in the things that they're putting out there and doing. And by the way, you are not the first person to tell me about this. Like Shireen, I feel like the last World Series we were at, someone else was like, dude, I just interviewed this girl and you need to know her. You guys would be like best friends. So hopefully, oh my God,
you guys would definitely. Yeah. She's sassy, and you know what? There's a great, at the risk of her not liking me saying this, there's a great YouTube clip. It's like the best final tribal speeches ever from Survivor. And she's like, I think she's in the top 10. She just like, her final tribal speech is so good. It's like, it's sassy and it's kind of cutting, and it's just amazing.
I'm writing this down. I can't wait.
So check that out.
Okay, cool. So everybody just jump into Jesse's DMs. I want to see his DMs just explode. So he just spends all of his time, all of his waking hours setting you guys up with beta accounts. I do really appreciate that. And on a side note, since we did start with what's happening in poker in the United States, we know now there's going to be a 2021 World Series of Poker, which 2 months ago was really a big question. Was this actually going to happen? Being one of my favorite Las Vegans and also a main event final table is no big deal. Are you going to play like everything this year? What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely playing everything, especially live stuff. It's so funny. Like until about 2 months ago, my friends would be like, "Oh, are you going to play this live thing?" I'm like, "Nope, I have zero interest. I'm happy at home, doing my thing, playing online, and learning other stuff." And then just lately, something happened, and I just miss I played my first live tournament the other day. It was like a $400 at the win. Yes. And my friends thought it was a bit that I was at the tournament. Like, they didn't think I was actually there.
Did Ashley go with you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would. Ashley's the reason I go to a lot of stuff.
That's my girl. So she's going to play a lot this summer too.
Yeah. She's like 100% poker mode lately. It's been really cool to watch. She's just been like playing a ton online, and she missed live, and she's been, playing a lot live. She's going to crush. She's great.
I won't be surprised. I will not be surprised to see her out there making the big monies, bringing home the bacon for dad and the babies. For those who don't know, Ashley Sleeth is Jesse Sylvia's fiance. She going to take your last name?
I think so.
I like Ashley Sylvia. I think that'll be a cute name. But she's also a great poker player in her own right. And I cannot wait to see you guys this summer. I'm so happy to be back to a place where we can all see each other and hug each other and shake each other's hands. I don't care. I don't care if people are still wanting to wear masks or whatever they want to do. Mama's giving out hugs. I'm dishing it out. I've missed our Las Vegas summer camp. And
I'm pumped. You guys got to come over, man. I'm like really pumped to like just do some barbecues, and
it'll have to be really wholesome fun now, because I'm going to be there with my 2 small children. So we have to it won't be the drunken shenanigans that we had originally anticipated in Martha's Vineyard. It will be probably barbecues and iced teas and throwing the kids in the pool or whatever we decide.
All right. We'll throw a little something in the iced tea, maybe.
Yeah, we can just spike it up. Jesse, I always appreciate catching up with you, and I'm really excited about your new project. I think, when I heard you were working on something, I just knew it would be something good for poker overall. And I think the team that you put together is a team of really like-minded people who are also very brilliant. And so I'm sure whatever comes out is going to be amazing. And if people want to follow you instead of just Floptimal, where do they follow you?
I am Mr. Jesse James on Twitter.
He's legit checking his phone right now. That's so funny. You're Mr. Jesse James on Twitter.
It's kind of like when they ask you at the barbershop, like, how do you want your hair? I'm like, I don't really look at me that much, so I don't know. Like,
it's true. I always say that to my husband. I'm like, honestly, I look at your face all the time. I have no idea what my own face looks like anymore. I just look at your face. So he gets the pleasure of just looking mostly at my face. Enjoy. All right. I got to go pick up the kid. It's been a dream. Give Ashley my best. Give the dogs big wet kisses. And thank you so much.
It's so good to talk to you. Take care.
Well, always good to catch up with my boy, Jesse. He's just someone I've always just enjoyed in poker. And I always appreciate the people who are able to transition from playing to also explaining what you're thinking and what's going on, as a lover of the game. I just always appreciate hearing that. So thank you, Jesse. And you guys can look forward to tomorrow. I'm going to be interviewing the newest streamers on the PokerStars team, whom we've referenced several times, but who are streaming from Pennsylvania. So it will be sort of an extension of this particular, episode about what's happening in the United States. And then we are going to go all the way across the pond. We've also got scheduled next week to talk to Poker Sasha. If you don't know her, check out her Twitter. She's a brilliant mind, I think, in poker, and someone who really has her, I hate the expression finger on the pulse, but she's definitely down with what's going on in the PLO scene. And I think that's something else that's really popping off in poker that it's important for us to think about, talk about, and maybe learn. I don't know. You guys have nothing going on in your lives, right? So we'll just...
I think that's fair.
That's
a fair assessment. Yeah.
Chad, you can get back to eating your Wednesday soup. And we thank you guys so much for listening, for tuning in to the podcast. We will catch you next time. Deuces.
Run It Once is a brand new online poker site founded by poker superstar Phil Galfond, who has the player's experience at heart. Run It Once plans to make online poker fun and less predatory while providing ample rewards and innovative features at the same time. All new Run It Once players who download the software via PokerNews are entitled to a 100% deposit bonus worth up to $6,000 100 euros. What makes this welcome bonus unique is that you can make as many deposits as you like for that first 30 days after your first deposit. This makes it perfect for those players who do not want to or cannot deposit 600 in one chunk. Be sure to check it out at once.run/pnpod. That's once.run/pnpod.